What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and it's time to say goodbye to February. Wrap it up, get it out of the door. I did do a mid-month wrap-up this month, so some of these books, if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts, I will direct you to that video in order to hear those thoughts. But we will count down this particular wrap-up video going from my worst book of the month to my best book of the month. And so for the month of February, I read a total of 14 books, which amounted to 5,831 pages, which is not too shabby. This was a shorter month than January, and I do feel like my reading in January was like a lot better quality-wise. However, my average rating in January was at 3.6, where my average rating in February is at 3.7. So tit for tat, about the same. I think I thought that it may be a little bit better in January because I had more 5 stars, but overall I had more 4-star reads. I think in February that boosted that up just a little bit past January. But we will go ahead and get started. Coming in at number 14, and this is a book that I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up. Gave this 2 stars, worst book of the month. Didn't really jive with it, and a lot of people will be disappointed in me, but that's going to be The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I have this beautiful, stunning broken binding edition. I'm very sad about this. Nobody is more sad about this than me. But I didn't jive with this. I'm not normally a classic girl. This was written in the 60s, I believe. It just was not for me, I guess. I don't know. I gave it 2 stars. Didn't really enjoy it. But I know there's a lot of people out there who would. If you want my more in-depth thoughts, go check out my mid-month wrap-up. Coming in at number 13, this starts my 3-star reads. This is going to be Carving Shadows into Gold, which is the second book in the Forging Silver into Stars trilogy by Brigid Kemmerer. Overall, I really enjoyed the first book. I gave it 5 stars. I thought there was nothing necessarily unique, but Brigid Kemmerer has this way with storytelling, and so this story is actually a companion series to her series that starts with A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is about 4 to 5 years in the future from that book, and we are following one of the characters from there, Tycho. He is the king's courier. We have 2 kingdoms who used to be rivals that have kind of become allies, but some of the people continue to hate the other kingdom because that's how they were raised, that's how they were brought up. There are magic users, there are non-magic users, and people hate people with magic. But we are following Tycho, who's the king's courier. We are following 2 other individuals, one who is a blacksmith. He's disabled, he is an amputee, and his best friend who works at a bakery. They get into some financial straits, some problems, and they somehow get reeled into being a part of the rebels. And things kind of go from there. It's political, there's a lot of romance in here, but I thought that it was a good mix of both, and I thought it's very done well. Now, this second book that I gave 3 stars, it's definitely a middle book syndrome. This was rather a large book, and you could have cut like 200, 300 pages off of it and still had a very concise story. I just don't think that there was much forward plot moving in the story. I will continue on. The 3rd book in the series, which I think is the completion of the series, just came out in January, so I am looking forward to wrapping that series up in the future. Coming in at number 12 is The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. I talked about this one in my mid-month wrap-up. Coming in at number 11, still with a 3-star, is Wild Ever After by Rebecca Genshak. I pulled this one out of my jars for the month of February for continuing a series. This is a book about a girl who is engaged to be married. Her job is basically she blogs about and she writes for this magazine, I think it's a magazine, about her wedding and everything it takes to get married and her journey. And right before the wedding, her fiance says, I can't do this anymore, and basically breaks off the wedding. However, her boss is like, you're gonna have to go through it with a wedding to someone, and she is very career driven. She is like, absolutely, I will marry whoever. And one of her friends, of course, volunteers marriage of convenience just to save her job, and of course they're gonna fall in love. I overall really enjoyed this. Was this anything unique or exciting, or was I on the edge of my seat? No, I thought it was definitely just a very cute romance. So this is a hockey romance. The male main character is obviously the hockey player, and that's it. Coming in at number 10, still with a 3-star, is With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. I also pulled this book out of my jars for the month of February in my backlist jar. This book has terrible reviews, and I guess I gave it 3 stars, so I'm part of that, but I just don't, when I give something 3 stars, I don't mean that it's a terrible book. I overall really enjoyed my time with this story. I don't think there was some kind of super shocking thing that happened, but basically we have this girl whose family has been ruined by these people that are involved in this train company, some very rich people. And basically her dad used to be the owner of this train company, and an accident happened. People were killed. Her brother was killed. People were killed. They blamed her father, and which in turn, they blamed her father, which was a turn of events. So she has a lot of vengeance in her. She wants revenge. And so she brings all these people that she thinks were involved with her father's demise onto this train in order to kind of turn them into the authorities. And right away somebody gets murdered on the train, and we're trying to figure out what happened, who done it. And this takes place over like a 14-hour train ride, and as people get picked off one by one, I thought that I just still enjoyed my time. So that's what I'll say. I enjoyed my time. I don't think it was anything groundbreaking, but I don't think it was as terrible as people say it is. Coming in at number 9 with my first 4-star read is going to be Wild Side by Elsie Silver. I talked about this in my mid-month wrap-up. Coming in at number 8 is going to be my reread of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, which there's not much to say about this, but I did talk about it in my mid-month wrap-up. Coming in at number 7, still at 4 stars, is The Wild Card by Miss Stephanie Archer, which just came out in February, and I read it. So proud of myself, but I did talk about this one in my mid-month wrap-up. Coming in at number 6 is The Long Game by Rachel Reed, which again, talked about in my mid-month wrap-up. I gave this book 4 stars. Coming in at number 5 is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Miss Allie Carter. I really enjoyed this. Is it Christmas time? No, but I still read it. Really enjoyed my time regardless of whether it was the season or not. So basically we have rival authors. They really don't like each other. Our female main character has gone through a divorce, and they both get invited over to Europe, I think it is, to one of these authors' estates. And she goes missing, and obviously they are together to try to figure out the mystery of where she went, what happened to her, and also having to work together as people who really don't like each other. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I thought this was super cute. I liked the mystery part. I liked the romance part, and I'm not really a cozy mystery kind of girl, but this one did do the trick for me. It's rather short, which I like and overall would recommend. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Wrecked by Lauren Asher. So this is the 3rd book in the Dirty Air series. Now, I've talked about Lauren Asher before. I read the first book, which was Throttled, the second book, which was Collided, I believe. I did not really care for those 2 books. I gave them both 3 stars. I thought the writing was subpar. I did not really care, but everybody said that you should keep going, because books 3 and 4 are where it's at in the series. You should keep going. Those are the good ones. So I did keep going, and this is the 3rd book in the series, coming at number 4. This is following our F1 race car driver who has some family issues. And I feel like the family issues, if I say, will be a spoiler, but he has some family issues that has caused a lot of turmoil in himself. He is addicted to Xanax, alcohol, acting bad. And of course, they bring in a PR person to kind of clean up his image. That's going to be our female main character. And she has issues of her own. And so here are these 2 people that are coming together. And it was just such a beautiful story. And sometimes I like broken characters, and I like seeing them put back together again, or maybe not even put back together again. And I so loved the ending of this. I felt like sometimes the authors take a turn you expect, a turn that you know is going to happen, okay? But then there are some authors that take a chance and they do something different. And this author did something different, and I appreciated that, and overall 4 stars. I do think her writing significantly improved, and I had a fun time with book 3. Coming in at number 3 is It's Not Her by Mary Kubica, which I pulled out of my jars, my new release jar for the month of February, and I did talk about that book in my mid-month wrap-up. This is going to start my 5-star reads. Coming in at number 2 is Redeemed by Lauren Asher. This is the 4th and final book in the Dirty Air series, and I completely adored this book. So we are following our male main character, Santiago. This is a F1 series romance, so he's an F1 driver, and in the first chapter, we see that he is in some kind of horrific accident that ends his career. And then we flash forward 3 years to present day, where we learn that he has basically reclused himself from people. He's grumpy, he's been an asshole, he is just kind of down on life, very depressed, because his whole life basically got ripped away from him. He has actually moved away from his family, moved away from his friends, never sees hardly his family, never does anything with them, moves to this small town and just kind of isolates himself. And we know this male main character. We know Santiago. We saw him in book 1. He is the brother of the female main character in book 1. He is very vivacious. He has such a great outlook on life. He is so happy-go-lucky. This great guy who has his whole life ahead of him, and then one thing happens and he is, immediately changed, immediately a different person. And this book touched me because I don't know if it's necessarily my personal things that have happened that I can relate to him so very much, but I'm just going to tell you what kind of injury he has, because I don't think that's a spoiler, as it happens at the first of the book. But basically, he gets part of his leg amputated. And he talks about just how difficult it is to participate in society when you look different, when you are not the same as everyone else. And I'm going to get emotional talking about this because I have dealt with that my entire life. First of all, let me go ahead and talk about the female main character. She also is not had the best life. She has grown up in the foster system. Her mother is just a real POS, and she never knew who her father was. So she takes this ancestry DNA kit and realizes her father lives in Italy. So she flies to Italy to try to meet up with her biological father, and she winds up meeting Santiago. So they don't get along at first. They're basically enemies. And then Santiago's sister comes to visit and catches them together. And because Santiago's family is so like, we need you to get better, we want you to get better, find a girl, find somebody, whatever. He just pretends to fake date her, like that she's his girlfriend, just to get his family off his back, and this is a fake dating story. But back to Santiago, as we see kind of the journey of him and his heartbreak of being different, because that's basically the core of the story, is that he's learned that he's different from everybody else, and how people treat you when you're different. So he has this amputation, and he does have a prosthetic that he mentioned. Like, he does not wear shorts. He doesn't like for people to see his prosthetic. He hides it away. And he has talked about him having intimacy with females a few times in the 3 years that he's been injured, but he's never taken off his prosthetic. Somebody has never seen him without his prosthetic. He is just very, no, and the shame that he feels for our female main character to know that he has a prosthetic, to see him with a prosthetic. We see that kind of grow as, they grow together as a couple, him getting more comfortable with her, but just the struggles that he goes through. Okay, I don't know how to explain this, but this was basically my whole life, and I think Lauren Asher did such a good job of, touching on how disfiguring disabilities truly feel, okay? And I'm not saying that everybody feels the same or disabilities are the same by any means. I'm not saying because I am disabled or I have a disfigurement that somebody else is not going to be the same, okay? Their feelings are not going to be the same, not the same, but this book had my feelings, I'm right there with it. So I don't necessarily tell people that I grew up like this, and I was born with bilateral clubfoot, and we live in a very small town. My parents weren't super rich, and I ended up having surgery in the first grade, which ultimately led to not the best outcome. I'll just say the surgery not was botched, but it was overcorrected. And at the time, like all the orthopedists that I've seen since then in my adult life have said, really honestly, they did the best with the technology, the knowledge they had at that particular time. So I don't fault anything that happened, surgery-wise, doctor-wise, when I was in first grade. But bottom line is, I have severe arthritis in my feet. They're disfigured. It's not something that I talk about. And I grew up being very ashamed of this. I grew up never wanting anybody to see. I never wear shorts. I never wore dresses. It was always pants. I physically cannot wear anything but tennis shoes or boots. So I would never wear dress clothes. I mean, it was just such a time trying to hide this disfigurement from everybody else and being so embarrassed. I couldn't go swimming. I couldn't go anywhere. And in this particular book, like, he originally invites her to go with him and his nephew to the boat to go swimming. And then he realizes, well, I can't do that because she'll see my prosthetic. And so he uninvites her. Of course, she doesn't know why. That's why he's uninviting her, but she invites him. And we just see the turmoil that he goes through as to not, he doesn't want anybody to see his disfigurement. And that was my whole life growing up. That was my whole entire being. And still to this day, I don't really go to water parks. I still don't wear dresses, still don't wear any of that stuff. And part of that is because, again, regardless of if people have good intentions or not, people judge, people look at you differently, and that's just unfortunately the society we live in today. But as far as like thinking that, I remember growing up thinking like, I'm never going to find somebody to love because of this, nobody's ever going to love me, it's just, I'm going to be alone forever, and kind of having to live with that. My husband, bless his soul, I met my husband when I was 16 years old, and I didn't advertise that I had this disfigurement, this disability. I never did, and nobody ever would have known had I not have told them or had they not have seen it. So my husband fell in love with me before he knew about my disfigurement, and that wasn't purposeful. It was just like we were hanging out, and I never brought it up. And then one day, he invited me to go swimming, and I said, absolutely 100% not. But anyway, when I finally did tell him and I finally had to open up, I was shocked that like he did not care. And my husband generally is such a great person. He really, truly is. But somebody who does not have a disfigurement and disability necessarily doesn't understand how somebody with a disfigurement and disability feels. Okay, my husband, 100% a just grand, stand-up, wonderful person. Loves me with all his heart. Never thought anything of it. But he still to this day, sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'm not going to the water park, I don't want to go to the pool, I don't want to go to the beach, because I don't want to be stared at, I don't want to be judged, and he just still to this day doesn't understand that, and that's just something that comes with somebody who doesn't know how that feels. So I'll just say that. But my form of clubfoot is, my family is genetic, even though nobody knows who had it before me. I assume that my grandparents or my great-grandparents somewhere along the line had it, and just, again, they hid their feet so nobody would know, or their grandchildren wouldn't know, or whatever, and it wasn't something that was widely advertised, so we don't know who had it before me. But then I had it, my niece has it, and my daughter has it. So anyway, that's just that. But I ranted a lot about disability, but this book hit home. I loved it. I loved Santiago as a person. I loved our female main character as a person. I loved watching him grow, and I loved watching her fall in love with him, and it was such a great story. And maybe it was so great because, it hit me in the feels, but great story. Coming in at number 1, ultimate 5-star read. That's going to be Brightside by Kim Holden. And I pulled this one out of my romance jar. This broke me. I knew that it was a sad book going into it. So I already knew basically what would happen going into it, okay? Because if you hear a book is sad, you know what's going on, okay? But it still broke me, and I boohoo sobbed crying. And if a book can make me boohoo sob cry, you're going to get 5 stars. You are going to get 5 stars. We are following our female main character, and she is traveling across country to go to college in Minnesota. She is from California, and she goes to Minnesota. She has a best friend that she has left behind in California, and he actually signs a record deal, and he is kind of making music in the music scene. She's very happy for him. Something happened between them like the night before she left for college, but they decide they're best friends, they're nothing more. While she's at college, she meets this barista at a coffee shop, and I don't feel like I can say much more without spoiling this book. I say you go into this book blind. That's what I say. And maybe, if you read this and you recommend it so much, you don't even tell them it's sad. You don't tell them it's sad, because I feel like I probably would have been more shocked and more sad if nobody would have told me it was sad. Okay? But I boohoo cried in this book. And normally, I work in the medical field. I don't think but I work in this line of work in the medical field. And there's a lot of discrepancies in what happens in this book to what happens in real life, okay? And normally that bothers me in any kind of fiction. I want it to be a little bit realistic. Granted, a lot of things are not as realistic because of the drama aspect, but I wanted this to be a little bit realistic. And by God, it was really not. But I tell you, I still sobbed my eyeballs out, so 5 stars. And this is the first book in a series, and I will be continuing on. Because I have to know what happens to this next character. Have to know. And hopefully I'm going to figure that out soon. Okay, that is all the books that I've read in the month of February. Okay, how am I doing on my goals? Let's talk. Let's chat. Oh, first off, I did read 1 book from each star. I only read 1 book from each star because that's all I could fit in. But I did read 1 book from each TBR jar in the month of February. Alright, let's chat about goals. My goals are to continue at least 4 series a month and read at least 3 on books. Let's see how I did. First of all, I started 2 series. I continued on with 4 series. Yes, hit that goal. And I completed 1 series. I started out this month with 296 owned books. Basically, I hauled 4 books that I haven't read. Plus, there was 1 that for some odd reason was not on my own list that I do own, so I had forgotten it. So we'll just say 5. I hauled 5. Okay. I read 3, which puts me at 298 books. So I'm positive too. Is this a good thing? No. I want this number to go down, but that's okay. Series-wise, I started out with 44 series in progress with 6 caught-up books. Now I have 45 series in progress with 6 caught-up books. So I have 1 more. I'm +1 in a series. So is that good? No, not really. But I just feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I'm reading things that I should be reading. I don't know. I need to crack down. I want to see my own books go down next month. And I want to see my series in progress and stuff go down next month. Please. Let's do this. We're going to have a great March. It was a great February. Let me know what you guys read in February. Did you have any standout fantastic reads in the month of love? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.